So it is an age-old question. Well, actually, it's probably a 3-year-old question. And that is, should I Zoom or not Zoom? Specifically when it comes to negotiation. When is it appropriate to conduct a negotiation virtually? And when is it better to get in person, whether that means a drive downtown, going to the office, or getting on a plane and crossing the ocean? The truth is, technology has greatly enhanced the ways in which we can do business, negotiate, and resolve conflicts. In 2019, I would never have imagined mediating a dispute over Zoom. Now, I do it regularly. In 2019, I would never have facilitated a multi-party group negotiation on Teams. Now it's commonplace. At the same time, there are times and places when it's frankly better to make the effort to meet in person than save the money and do it over Zoom. In fact, the work of meeting in person sometimes saves money, builds better relationships, and allows for more value creation. So, in the comments, I'm curious, what are some of the questions you ask yourself when you're deciding, should I meet in person or can I do this over Zoom? I'm Bob Bordone. I'm a senior fellow at Harvard Law School. I'm the founder and former director of Harvard Law School's Negotiation and Mediation Clinical Program, and I'm the founder and principal of the Cambridge Negotiation Institute. Okay, so there is an emerging literature on virtual negotiation that offers us some guidance about when it's better to meet in person. Now, some of this is obvious, and maybe some of this is less so. First, building rapport and establishing a relationship is still significantly better when done in person than over Zoom. And part of the reason why is the nature of showing up in a place. When you show up in a place, you necessarily have more small talk. And frankly, there are some advantages to being trapped, meaning that at lunchtime, you have to get up and have some small talk. At a coffee break or in the bathroom, you have some small conversations. Those kinds of conversations create a certain kind of social glue that actually helps enhance trust and build some relationship. As opposed to on Zoom, when we go on a break and we basically mute and shut our cameras off and go back to petting our dog or talking to the mailman or watching our favorite YouTube channel. Second reason why we want to do things in person is that research has shown that in negotiations, parties are more creative when they are working together in person. And so if I want to really stimulate creativity, get people moving beyond positions to interests, to brainstorming options, in person is superior. Third, when things have really gone off the rails, when emotions are running high, moving a negotiation in person has tremendous benefits. During the past year, I was invited to mediate a somewhat complicated labor management dispute. And both sides had been in negotiations for months that were happening over Zoom. As a condition for my agreeing to mediate, I insisted that parties would meet in person and not on Zoom. And I knew it was going to be a hard sell because emotions were very high, trust was really low, the relationship was bad, and avoidance was in full play. So having to come into the same room was highly distasteful. And yet I knew both from my experience and from research that bringing people into the room would be hugely helpful. And while this was not an easy negotiation by any means, I have to tell you that first meeting of bringing people together into the room was like a glacier of ice melting. There was a new warmth and a recommitment to work together. So whenever things have gone sour, even though there could be a side of us that is like, let's just do this on Zoom, getting together can be really helpful. Now, the truth of the matter is that Zoom is more efficient and more cost-effective than flying halfway across the country for a meeting. And in fact, there are times when Zoom is at least as good as, and perhaps better than meeting in person. Research has shown that deals close more quickly when done in a virtual negotiation than in person, so that there is more of a linear rather than random flow to negotiations. So if I'm trying to promote efficiency and drive closure, Zoom or virtual can be preferable to in person. In addition, for some basic agenda setting and preparation, Zoom meetings can work very, very well. In addition, for ongoing check-ins and implementation, Zoom or virtual is great. So let's imagine you've decided we are going to do certain meetings on Zoom. I want to give you a few pieces of advice on how to make the negotiation there more effective. First, whenever possible, insist on cameras on. Now, I appreciate that some people don't have the luxury of either having a camera or being able to be in a space that's private enough for cameras on. But keeping cameras on when possible enhances engagement. It also gives you the benefit of nonverbal cues that are incredibly helpful in negotiation. Secondly, when you're discussing process or ground rules, there are at least a few I want to encourage. First is minimal use of private chatting or texting. So this may surprise you because you're like, one of the things I like about virtual is that I could be texting my colleagues while we're on camera. And I get that. It's also the case that having private flows of information tend to distract from what's actually happening in the negotiation. It's one of the reasons why research has shown there's less creativity in virtual negotiations than in-person negotiations. Now, what is the antidote to not texting or chatting? That is my second process point, which is building in frequent agreed upon breaks. We know from research and also from experience that there is something called Zoom fatigue. If you are on Zoom all day, you are just way more tired than if you were meeting with real people all day. The reason why is that the way the human brain functions is it is in the background always reading emotions and facial cues. And even with HD screens that are highly pixelated, the level of clarity is much less than in real life. And so our background brain activity is spending a lot more energy reading facial cues over Zoom than in real life. So building in these breaks allows us a chance to get some energy. It also allows us a chance to reconnect with our colleagues, and it avoids the distraction that texting and private chatting can have. At the end of the day, Zoom is a very powerful negotiation tool. But the notion that because we have it, we should use it all the time is a mistake. Great negotiators are always making strategic decisions on when to meet in person and when to meet over Zoom. I'm going to invite you to stay virtual a little bit more and watch this next video, which is The Art of Persuasion for Professional Success. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and ring the bell. Okay, it's not difficult to keep watching. Click, click.